Hi everybody, this is the Baseball Hut, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the People's Champion. Your host, the Hut, and welcome back to the Baseball Hut. And of course, this is the Dark Hut, and it's gonna be a dark winter here at the Hut, a dark off season, and I'm gonna do videos, bring up on negativity, because things need to be straightened out here when we get back to spring training, and really by the time we get to New Year's, there has to be major moves made on this team. I know that SNY's John Harper said, "Oh, a lot of people say I shouldn't make any crazy moves." Let me tell you something. The Mets have been together. This group has been together for about 6 years, and there needs to be major moves being made onto this team if they are to move forward. Sorry, that's how it is. We saw one move that was made in the last few days. Glenn Sherlock was basically retired. They maybe told him to get the hell out of here. Or maybe he just said, "I'm going to retire." Maybe they offered him something else in the organization, and maybe he said, "I'm going to retire." That's probably what happened. He'll probably go work for somebody else, go back to the Yankees or whatever. And of course, we are waiting breathlessly to see the Mets fire Jeremy Hefner. Now, I'm recording this video on Thursday. We'll see what the Mets' response is Friday, if they start making some moves. According to little Andy Martino of SNY, there are going to be other changes to the coaching staff. A lot of guys have been around here a long time. Jeremy Hefner has to go. He's been here too long, and he hasn't been nearly as successful as we're being told. And I've been complaining about him for 2-3 years. Well, anyway, so what's this video about? Well, it's funny I should mention that. It's about Francisco Lindor. Now, I've been very critical of him and his time with the New York Mets. Up until about last year, I was hammering him pretty good. I always said that he was a good guy. I always thought that his defense has been excellent. I feel like he should have won at least 3 Gold Gloves here with the Mets, and he didn't win any. Now this year he's played terrible defensively. He did not have a good year defensively. But he's a good guy. He is a player that has done a lot here. He's put up tremendous numbers, and he had a very strong September. He's a 30-30 man twice. He was second in the MVP voting last year. He's won 2 Silver Slugger Awards with the Mets. He has had a very good career here with the Mets. You know, he's driven 90 runs here, over 90 runs 3 times in his career. Man, it's just incredible. Has hit 30 home runs 3 times in the last 3 years. You know, he's scored over 100 runs the last 3 years. Tremendous numbers, but the Mets haven't won. But the thing is that it's more important to me who plays for them. The name on the front as opposed to the name on the back. Like, he has a good family. He comes from a very good family, apparently. So that's not the issue. It's not personal. It's business. So I've talked about the Mets doing this for a few years, but I think some people are coming around to it. The Mets need to look into shopping him this offseason. See what they could get for him in return. He is going to be making $34 million over the next 6 years. That's $204 million over the length of that contract. He's going to be 32 years old in November. Now, if the Mets had won a World Series over this 5 years, my attitude about him and about the ball club would be very different, obviously. If they got to the World Series last year, they had a very good shot to beat the Yankees last year. They were really good last year. But obviously the Dodgers were too strong. They beat up on the Mets pretty good. But they didn't win in these 5 years. And that's a long period of time to have a player here that you built your team around and you haven't won. Now, this club has a lot of problems, obviously. Now, one of the things that's popped up this year has been this thing about Juan Soto talking about the clubhouse and how Starling Marte is a leader in that clubhouse. Starling Marte is not going to be back next year, so that's something we have to keep in mind. And so Marte has been looked at as the leader of this team, but the media has told us that Lindor is the leader of this team. Well, which is it? And I listen to the player who's saying that. And it wasn't anything negative about Lindor. It was something positive about Marte. Marte is not an everyday player anymore. He's a role player at this point in his career, and he's an aging player. So you don't want a 37-year-old guy who's you know, who's aging and is a leader. That doesn't work. Just like a pitcher as a leader doesn't work either. Well, I'm going to say the Mets should look to trade him. I have a couple of ideas. Not what they can get in return, but a couple of teams I think would be, could probably afford him. Now, he is a 5'10 player, meaning that he's played for the Mets for 5 years and he's been in the majors for 10. So he can veto any trade just based off of that. Just based off of that. And I'll give you a couple of names. One is the Dodgers. So the Dodgers have Mookie Betts, but Mookie's not a shortstop. I'm surprised they haven't brought in a shortstop. And he'd be another big ticket item for them. They have a good farm system. I would assume that Steve Cohen would eat a lot of the money. Because I think he said when it came to Verlander and Scherzer that it was already money that was spent when he traded those guys to Houston and to the Rangers. So that's one team that he could, and this could be for any team. He can just eat half the contract, and maybe these teams take $17 million a year, or he takes the front part of the contract and pays for that, and then these teams pay the back end. And I'm not going to get into what the Mets could get because this is I'm just brainstorming right now. And there needs to be a change. I mean, it might be a situation that he's too nice of a guy. He might be too nice of a guy. And you know that the saying, nice guys finish last. And that goes for anything in life. Anything in life, nice guys always finish last. Another team, which would be the Toronto Blue Jays. Blue Jays are going to lose their shortstop, Bo Bichette, who's going to be going somewhere. I can see him going to the Dodgers, right? The market for shortstops is not as good as it has been over the last few years. Last 5 years, the shortstop market's been just off the charts. But Bo Bichette will be the big shortstop on the market. I can see the Blue Jays. He's not signing back with the Blue Jays. He's not staying. So, in my opinion, I think that's another place that would be good for Lindor to go is Toronto. And again, the Mets would have to eat the money, a big portion of that contract. But he would have to waive his no-trade clause that he has. I think he has a no-trade clause in the contract, too. But it'd just be more of a 5-10 thing, I think. I think that kind of supersedes everything. But, look, I mean, I like the guy, but you have to sort of be honest about where this team is at. He's going to be 32 years old in another month and a half. Okay, he's like getting close to the end of his prime. And I thought that last year that he had a career year, but he had a good year this year. He finished up very, very strong. And he plays a lot. He posts. Whenever he's hurt, he stays out there. Other than the first year where he got hurt, after the All-Star break, he plays all the time. He plays every single day. And that's, obviously, that's an admirable, fighting this nasty cold that I have. But this is a team that needs to change the personality of the players in the clubhouse. There's no sense of urgency. You don't see it on the field right now. And that's a big reason why the Mets went home. That's why the Reds got swept in that 3-game series to the Dodgers. The sense of urgency wasn't there. And you can't keep blaming the manager because this would be the third manager the Mets would be running through. We had Luis Rojas here. We also had Mickey Callaway. Remember Mickey? He's always texting those women, ding, 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 ding. Texting those women to try to get a date instead of getting the lineup right. He screwed the lineup that time, back in 2019. But you have got, and then of course, Buck Showalter and now Mendoza. How many managers is this group going to go through? And like I said at the beginning of this video, the Mets have to change the coaching staff, and they have to make some changes. I'll talk about Brandon Nimmo in some future video, I would think. But I think Lindor is something you have to consider. And there's nothing wrong with talking about it. We can talk about it here, So, leave comments in the comments section. This is not being nasty. It's not being mean. It's just looking at it very honestly and practical. And I don't want to hear people say, well, they're not going to, who's going to trade for him? He's making all this money. Steve Cohen will spend the money to get rid of a player. Now, I would say this before I forget. He's very close with the family. Okay, he's very close with Alex Cohen, Steve Cohen's wife, and she's co-owner of this team. So that's a consideration as well. Would they be willing to part ways with somebody that they care about and they like? He's the first big acquisition of this ownership group, and it hasn't worked in the first 5 years. And he's going to be aging the next year or so. So those things have to be considered when we move forward, right? You can't just say, well, they're not going to trade him. That's it. No, you got to look at it very honestly about the player. How many more years does he have left? And with this, and I would say the Mets are going to be good next year. I expect that to happen. I expect the Mets to be very good next year. I expect them to be competitive. And I expect them to have a better attitude and a better personality on the field. That's what I think. Because I don't think they're going to put up with that kind of nonsense again. Well, you let me know what you think about this video and what would you want to do. And that's it. Yes or no, whatever, and what your ideas are for what teams would be interested in him. I got 2 here. The Blue Jays and the Dodgers have holes that they probably could fill with him. And there's nothing wrong with him, believe me, as a player. You make your team so much better. But like I said, he's getting older in terms of what the Mets are looking for. So thank you for watching. Have a good day. And of course, it's the dark cut. We talk about dark things here. And it might be not the most positive stuff, but we got to talk about it.